Chapter 13 of Tales from Silver Lands. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Lynette Calkins. Tales from Silver Lands by Charles Finger. The Magic Knot. There once was a lad whose name was Borak, who might have been the son of a king, and again might not. No one ever really knew, though a wise old woman who lived nearby said that he was, and so many things that she said were found to be true that people believed what she said of Borak. Borak was found by the side of a lake by a man who was gathering fruit. This man saw what he took to be a shining white stone, and going to it, found a basket neatly made of silk grass lined with soft white feathers, and in it, warm and cozy like a bird in a nest, was the child Borak. So the man took the basket and the baby home with him, and his children were delighted with their new playmate. That made 4 children for the man and his wife to take care of, for he had 3 of his own. But good luck came to him from the day he found Borak, and things went very well. As for the newcomer, he was treated exactly as were the rest of the children in that house, and like them, grew strong of limb and ruddy of face. So there were 2 boys and 2 girls, playmates, and each day was a golden one for them. Somehow Borak seemed to see things and to know things that the others often missed. Not that his sight was any better than the sight of his foster brother and sisters, for in the place where they lived at the foot of the mountains, where the air was clean and sharp, everyone had good eyesight. Things at a distance were as clear-cut as things are when you look through a field glass. But as Borak grew, he saw beauty in common things, and pointed out to the others the colors in the sunset sky, the pure blue of the lake water, the sun-sparkle on the stream, and the fresh green of the hill grass. Then, too, there were the songs of the birds. That music they had grown up with, had heard so often that they had forgotten the beauty of it all, until one day Borak began to call like a bird, and from every tree and bush came a chorus so rich and so wonderful that the joy in their hearts was more like a sweet pain. You know how that is. Now there was a place in the mountains where the cliff ran straight up, and so smooth it was that no one had ever climbed it, though the children there were sure-footed as goats and could climb the highest places without growing faint or dizzy when high up. Halfway up this cliff was a broad ledge on which a condor had built its nest, and Borak and his friends often played at the foot of the cliff and loved to watch the condor drop off his rock shelf with spread wings and float far above, winding in mighty circles for hours, floating higher and higher into the sky without wing motion, and just leaning over, it seemed, to go with the wind or against the wind, up and up, until he looked no larger than a hummingbird against the blue. So high he went sometimes that if one but blinked for a moment, the little black spot seemed to disappear. If any one of them had been granted a wish, that wish would have been that he or she might have the power to soar and wheel like the great bird, sweeping up in a great curve to hang in the air, floating downward in a long, long line, sliding, as it were, to sweep up again at will. One day, when Borak and his 3 friends were there, one of the girls called out in great trouble, pointing up the face of the cliff to a place where was a cranny, and looking, the others saw a large mottled owl with 2 staring eyes, perched on a point of rock, and just below it they could make out a pigeon on its nest. It seemed to them that the owl was screaming, "Ah, I see you, little dove! Sharp as needles are my claws. Sharp, too, is my beak to tear you, and little owls are hungry for the flesh of doves." That seemed very terrible to those who saw, and the 4 children began to shout and to throw stones, trying to chase the owl away, but it was of no use. The nest of the rock pigeon was too far away, and the face of the rock too smooth and sheer for any of them to climb. So there seemed nothing for it but to watch until the little bird was captured. The pigeon, they saw, was in great fear, but in spite of the danger, stayed on the nest. As for the owl, he turned his face downwards towards them, hearing the noise, and they saw his cruel eyes and his head feathers that were like horns, but he gave no sign of going away. Indeed, he hooted at them as if to say, "Who cares for you, little earth creatures?" To the watchers, it was like a jailer hanging over a prisoner who is innocent, or like a man with a sword about to deal a death blow to a child. It was very sad to them to see the dove all helpless, and above her, the owl ready to dash down at any moment. As for Borak, he was so full of grief that he had started to climb the cliff, though it was clear to him as well as to his friends that he could not mount far. When he had climbed some little way up, a wonderful thing came to pass. From the sky where the condor wheeled came dropping a long feather, a wing feather which the great bird had plucked, and it fell spinning, and at last rested on a little rock hump close to Borak's right hand. His left hand, meanwhile, was clutching fast to the rock above his head. Now, why Borak should pick up such a thing as a feather when he needed his hands free, he did not know, and certainly none of his friends could guess. But he did so, and not only that, but looked at it curiously, just as you would do, to note the smooth lines of it and the beauty of the thing. And as he did this, he twisted it just a little, gave it a turn with his fingers. At that, he floated gently from the face of the rock, out from the cliff and into the air, until he was poised above the heads of his companions, hanging as lightly as a piece of thistledown. Again he twisted it, just a little, and went upward. Then he tried other things, pointing it a little toward the face of the cliff, and wonderful enough, floated that way. So he as well as the children knew that there was magic in the feather. Up then he darted with its aid, swiftly as the swiftest bird, rushing through the air, then swooped away from the cliff most beautifully, went upward again, made a circle as he dived again, then shot upward, and so to the place where the owl sat. Seeing him, the sharp-clawed thing raised its wings and softly flew away, and was seen no more. Somehow, the three at the foot of the cliff were not at all afraid. They knew everything would come right. Indeed, they leaped with joy and delight when they saw Borak standing on the rock ledge, and they clapped their hands when they heard the little slate-colored creature coo with gratitude when the owl vanished. But what Borak did next they could not tell, though they saw him stoop and pick up something. This is what happened. Borak, up there, saw behind the dove's nest a coil of silky stuff no thicker than a fine thread, and in the middle of it was a queer knot. At first he thought it was part of the nest, so would not touch it. But soon the bird rose from its nest, picked up the end of the thread, and walked with it to Borak. He took it then, wound in the rest of the coil, and it lay in his hand, taking up no more room than a wild cherry would, so very fine it was in texture. But he knew at once that he had the magic knot of which the old woman had so often spoken, the magic knot that could bind evil things, though they were so strong that they could lift rocks. How the magic knot got there, neither he nor anyone else could know, and it did not matter very much. Certainly, but for it, the owl would have captured the dove. The condor may have known about it, for condors are very wise, travel far, and see much that escapes the eyes of men. Anyway, Borak did not stay long, but feather in hand leaped into the air, though he was so high that his friends looked to him no larger than foxes, and swooping down, landed lightly on the earth. Then there were experiments. Each of the children wanted to try the feather in turn, and great fun they had that evening, flying higher and higher as they grew braver, until at last each of them had stood on the faraway shelf where was the condor's nest. It was easy to do, and they found that all would go well so long as there was neither doubt nor fear. The magic feather would carry them quite safely so long as they believed in it. If they did not believe in it, then not a foot could they get from the earth. As for the magic thread with its wonderful knot, what good that might be they did not know, but it was certainly magic, and magic things, as they knew, always come in useful. So they guarded it carefully, packing it away in a nutshell where it should be handy when needed. And the magic knot came in useful much sooner than they expected, and if you are not going to be scared, you may hear the tale. But if the hearing of it will make you nervous in the dark, or cause you to be afraid so that at night, being outside the house and nearing it, you make a hurried run to get to the door, then you had better read no farther. For you may as well understand that the magic knot did actually do the work, and the thing that it bound is bound forever and ever, so that no one of you should be afraid of the dark, nor be shivery as your hand is set on the door latch, lest something should leap out of the dark and seize you. Here, then, is the place to stop if you are timid, but if you are not, you may read what comes next, and after these 3 stars. One night, in the village next to that in which Borak and his 3 friends lived, something happened. In a little house that sat near a clearing, some people were sitting talking, and being thirsty, one of them asked the boy of the house to take the gourd and go to the stream for water. He did so, going bravely into the dark, for the stream was but 100 steps away from the house door. The people in the house waited and waited, wondering why the boy was so long, and at last someone went to look for him. Down to the little river they went, and back again, but there was no sign of the boy. Now that was bad enough, but what was worse was that on the next night a boy went to visit a friend who lived 5 houses away, and that boy never reached his friend's house. His father and mother went to look for him and traced his footsteps in the sandy road, but came to a place where the steps stopped, and beyond was smooth sand. Then, on the 3rd night, something happened. A girl and her sister were visiting, and the younger girl started to go home alone. No sooner had she left than her sister, remembering how the boys had vanished, ran after her to bear her company. The night was moonless, and a thin, cold mist hid the stars, but the sister could see the little one's white dress a little way ahead. She could not see very plainly because it was so dark, but there was no mistake about it. The fluttering white thing was in front, cloudy-looking certainly, but there. Then, of a sudden, something happened. The white cloud that was the dress had vanished. So the older sister ran to the place and heard a voice calling, and the sound seemed to come from above her head. She looked up and saw a flutter of white for an instant, then nothing more. Her sister had vanished exactly as a bubble vanishes. Because of all that, there was terror in the village. In the day, the people were nervous enough, but at night there was great fear. No one dared stir out after sunset. Even within doors, people sat as if on thorns. Then one night, when there was no glimmer of light in the sky, a family sitting in a house heard a great tearing sound, as if some giant hand was pulling at the thatched roof. The light in the house went out, and those who sat in the room crouched trembling, crowding close to one another, their hearts throbbing. When at last it was quiet again, they saw that a ragged hole was in the roof, and on the earth floor there was a mark like the claw of a great bird. That was all, but there was trouble in the hearts of the people, and soon the news of it all came to Borak. He listened to the tale attentively, and so did the wise old woman who was there. She nodded thoughtfully and said, "But have no fear. Things will not go ill while the moon shines." She said much more, particularly asking Borak if he had the magic knot, and then she told him what to do. And with the growing moon, the trouble ceased. Meanwhile, Borak was busy. The old woman had talked with him, as had been said, and day after day, with the help of his magic feather, he made great flights, circling high in the sky, crossing valleys and passing over mountain and lake, and seeing strange lands far to the west, and the great ocean that reached far until it touched the sky. Then the condors were good to him, and with them he flew hither and thither, as fast and as high as they, never tiring, never lagging, and they took him in a new direction, and to a place where, out of a great bare valley, rose a monstrous black bird, a bird so strong that it could bear away a llama in each claw and another in its beak. So big it was that beside it a condor seemed tiny. It was an ugly bird, and the eye of it was heavy-lidded and baleful, its claws sharp. The wings flapped so heavily that the wind from them caused the trees nearby to bend their tops as if they leaned to whisper one to another. Borak at once knew it for the great bird of evil that swooped down on dark nights and carried men away, and he also knew that in the world there was but one, and that it laid but one egg. For many days the lad watched, following the bird wherever it went, and at last discovered its foul nest high up in the mountains where man never set foot. By the side of its nest, in which was an egg so great that a goat might have hidden in the shell of it, was a hole in the rock. In this hole, the sides of which were very steep, were all those whom the great bird had carried away. Day by day, as Borak saw, the bird dropped fruit down into the hole, so that the unhappy creatures might live until the egg was hatched, when they would, he knew, be taken out and given to the young one to eat. When the great bird had flown away, Borak ventured close to the hole and called out to the people there to be of good cheer, for he would rescue them soon, and also kill the bird. Back to his own place he flew then, with his magic feather, and told everyone what he had seen. And, as the wise old woman advised, Borak and his friends chose a stout tree and cut the top and the branches from it. Then they formed the trunk into the shape of a youth, leaving the roots fast in the earth. This figure they painted and covered with a garment, and in the hand of it they put a large gourd, so that from afar the thing looked like one going for water. Close to it they built a house of poles, and covered it with grass for a roof, in the fashion of the country. And all that they had ready before the moon was again dark. Then, everything being prepared, Borak went into the house and waited. 3 nights he was there, then, taking his feather, flew here and there. At last he saw a great black cloud swiftly moving, which he knew to be the evil bird. So he made for his house, and soon there came a great tearing sound in the air. As the bird came, it set up a terrific screeching, and the noise that it made with the beating of its wings was like thunderclaps. Down it swooped on the man of wood, claws outstretched and beak open, and in another moment it had seized the figure and was trying to lift it. The more the figure resisted, the tighter the evil bird held, its claws and beak fast sunk in the wood. So fearful were its struggles that the earth about the root of the tree heaved, and it seemed as if the roots would be torn out bodily. Then, finding that it could not move the thing, the bird made to fly away, but its talons and beak were held by the wood as if in a vice. All its flappings and tearings then were of no avail, and try as it would, it could not release itself. faster and harder it beat its wings, and the wind from them bowed the bushes and shook the house in which Borak was hidden. Then Borak came forth with magic feather and magic knot, and was soon in the air above the struggling bird. Hovering there, he unloosed the thread with the magic knot, and lowered it. Down it dropped, and was soon entangled in the beating wings, like a web about a fly. And slight though the thread was, against the power of the magic knot nothing could prevail. So in a short time the great black bird was bound forever. In the morning Borak flew to the nest in the far valley, and went down into the pit in which were the unlucky ones that the bird had caught. One by one he carried them from that place and to their homes. As for the egg, putting his shoulder against it, he tumbled it from the ledge where the nest was, and it fell and was smashed to pieces. So there was an end of the evil bird, which soon died, and it was the last of its kind. And today, of all the birds of the air, there are none to do harm to men. End of The Magic Knot.